this video will show you 3 ways that you can use the observer effect in order to attract what you want. I'm going to share with you some practical ways you can apply it so that you really can get what you want in life. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron. I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the power of the observer effect. Show you 3 reasons and 3 ways that you can apply it so that you then change your outer circumstances. Now actually just yesterday on Instagram I posted I think it was like a meme, I guess you could say, and it was me talking about how everything we see is a reflection of who we are. How our beliefs create our reality, and when we change our beliefs, we then change the reflection that we get. Now, this means that what we can begin to do is understand that when we observe, we are neutralizing the perspective we have, and we are then able to choose the way that we prefer to see things. Now the observer effect has been something that quantum physics has been studying. It's been something that's been around for a while, and it's basically the consumption or the understanding that what we can do is see things from this neutral point of view, and that simply the act of observing something changes its experience and the way that we see it. So having a different perspective or a different like a more neutral point of view will change the way that we respond to whatever we are looking at. Now, the power of the observer effect is that we void out resistance. It's that we're able to void out all of the baggage that may come with the connotation, the meaning that we are giving to certain things in our life. Now let me give you examples of how we can apply this practically in our life before I actually get into the bulk of the 3 ways that we can apply it. Imagine that you are in traffic and you are going somewhere, and maybe you're driving someone that got hurt recently, and you're driving them to maybe a hospital or somewhere that they have to go because maybe their back really hurts. Well, the idea is that maybe what you have to do is you have to drive slow, because if you drive too fast, it hurts their back. Well, what could happen is from you driving to wherever that, you have to drop that person off or bring that person to the hospital or wherever it is, the idea is that if there's cars that back up behind you and you know that you're supposed to be going faster, maybe you're driving a little bit slower than the speed limit, what happens is if those drivers are honking at you, normally you might be the person that would be honking at someone else for going 45 miles an hour in a 60 mile an hour highway or something like that. That's the idea. But wouldn't your perspective then change, because then you could see it from a new point of view? So because you're now driving somebody that's in pain and you have no choice but to do that in order to keep them their well-being intact, the idea is that now that you can see, and you normally would empathize with the people honking at you because you're going slower in a higher speed limit type road, the idea is then you see it from a more neutral point of view, because what is happening is you're starting to relate to the situation in a new way. Then from that point going forward, you may forever change the way that you respond to other drivers that are driving slow, because you see that they may have their own reasons for doing so. So the idea is the observer effect can change everything, because then it shifts perspective. Now the first way that we can apply the observer effect is to do exactly with that. How can we change that perspective? And by neutralizing or observing, we then get an opportunity to see it from a different perspective. So think of that last analogy. How can you apply this in your life? Maybe if you realize, and I use this all the time when I'm talking to people when it comes to helping them learn how to forgive other people. Think of forgiveness in the form of perspective. My ex-stepmom was a very abusive person, and growing up until between the ages of 9 to 15, she was in my life, and we had a lot of control. It was almost like living in the military. Me and my brother always had to be doing work outside. We weren't allowed to have friends. We weren't allowed to eat very much. We were very malnourished. We got in trouble all the time for just about everything, and she's just a very angry person. Now, the idea is that from one point of view, when I came out of that for years, me and my brother had fun after that, because all of a sudden I'm 15, he's like 12 or 13, we're with my dad, and all of a sudden we're allowed to have friends, we're allowed to do things. It was like a whole new world. It was like all of a sudden we had all this freedom. Now what happened though is I eventually developed a little bit of resentment, or maybe even a lot of resentment, because I was mad at why did all of that happen for those years. I was resenting her because she's such an angry person, but then I had a break in continuity where I started to see it differently. I started to put myself in her shoes. And I started to see that when she was a kid, when she was young, her dad used to treat her the same way. I realized that her dad was also an angry person. I realized that anybody that abuses anyone else is normally someone that was abused. Normally it's not just people that had this great upbringing that then decide to be very angry people. I don't know, maybe there's certain circumstances where that does happen. But what I'm saying is normally the abuser was abused at a certain point. You see, I started to change my perspective because I started to see it from their point of view. Now understand, everybody will always make their own decisions based on their own level of rationalization. Now this means that whatever they do, they've justified it in their own head. Her acting that way towards me and my brother, she justified it in her own head because she always had to be right, because that's just the way that she was, or a way that maybe she still is today. Now, no judgment, it's just simply discernment of the way that it was. Now, here's the thing. The moment I switched my perspective was the moment I let go of all that emotional baggage. It's the moment I was really able to forgive, because I was able to see it from a different point of view. Now, I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying I'm happy necessarily that it happened, although from a certain perspective, I am happy that it happened. I know that sounds crazy, because even though there was so much pain for so many years, what came out of that was eventually me going deeper within myself to learn more about why things are the way they are, understanding more of the spiritual type, aspects of life. And I don't know if I would have been there as quick as I am, being in my 20s and knowing all of this stuff if I didn't go through that pain. So that's kind of my perspective on perspective and how perspective can change everything. So begin to observe things from other people's point of view, and you'll start to see that you can take away the emotional baggage that might come along with everything else that you do. Now, the second way that we can apply the observer effect has to do with neutralizing resistance. So it's kind of similar to the first one. But understand that I'm kind of changing my perspective when it comes to the law of attraction. Now, under the old way of the law of attraction, we're mainly focused on elevating our own emotion. Now, I still think that can be a very powerful way to do it. But what I'm learning is I'm studying quantum physics more. I'm studying some of the, I guess you could say, new ways of looking at psychology. And what I'm learning is that it's actually better to create from a more neutral point of view. Now let me kind of explain this to you. It's all relative. Now in the same sense, like when I first started YouTube and I had maybe, eventually at the beginning of this year, it's 2017 right now, I had like 2,000 or 3,000 subscribers, and I decided to go daily. From there, every month, it was probably, we started growing by about 20,000 subscribers a month. And all of a sudden, it started to grow very quickly. Now, I remember that as I had this goal of hitting 100,000 subscribers, I had like this kind of feeling that, oh, when I hit 100,000, it's gonna feel like this, and I'm just gonna really have made it, and it's just gonna feel like all the hard work paid off. Now, this is what happened though. By the time 100,000 subscribers hit, I was very grateful, and for maybe a day I felt really good about it, but that became my normal. That became something that was a part of my everyday life. I create daily videos, I'm a YouTuber, this is what I do. Now, the thing is once you get what you want, it starts to neutralize itself out to begin with. If you put it at such a level of importance, you distance yourself from it. That's what I've been learning. So what I do is I kind of lessen the importance of what it is. Like, what does it mean to have 100,000 subscribers? Now, to me, what it means is that I've given and put out so much of myself and so much value that it's helped people, that's the reason it's grown. I view everything in the form of value more so than just numbers, right? I see you guys as actual people, as a family, as a community, not just as numbers on a website. So because of that, I relate to it in a little bit of a different way, but nonetheless, what does it mean other than the meaning that I give it? So it's more of a neutral type thing. But I think that if we give too much motion and too much importance over to what we're doing, we begin to distance ourselves because we become vulnerable to the opposite. It's like if it doesn't happen, we feel resistance. And this is also something that I put in a recent Instagram post. If we insist that something happens, on the other side of that is the resistance if it doesn't go according to the blueprint in our own mind. So this means that the power is in understanding how we can have a more neutral type perspective, to more observe rather than try to give so much emotional credence to, emotional importance to. Emotion could still be powerful, but with emotion, let it become a part of who you naturally are. Let your passion carry you. I wake up every morning, I just woke up, I took a cold shower, I I meditate, I take a cold shower, I come in here and I film a video. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I love to do. It's a very settled level of excitement. It's not like I walk around like buzzing, like, you know what I mean, with like ecstatic excitement. I can't do anything. It's a very settled excitement. It's a very settled me feeling on my purpose. And that's the way you can get too when it comes to finding your purpose and really knowing what you can do. So see it from more of a neutral point of view. And I think it's actually more powerful to create from a more observer effect, from a more neutral place to where things aren't good, things aren't bad, they just simply are. And that as we have that perspective, we're able to then consciously decide the way that we prefer to see things. We're able to then, make decisions based on that level of awareness. And it's actually like then things happen because we actually resonate with it. Whereas we don't really resonate with something if we put it on a pedestal and we really insist on it happening a certain way and we don't feel like it's in our life right now. So feel like you already have what you want. Feel the level of excitement. I think one of the best formulas you can find is to just simply follow your excitement as much as you can. That's it. Just as much as you can, follow your excitement. And every choice you make it be something that you're excited for. And as you do that, that will lead you to the next most probable thing, and it'll lead you to a life full of that track of you doing what you want to do. But have it be excitement from more of an observer effect, more so than an excitement that's dependent on outer circumstance. Now, the third way that we can apply the observer effect has to do with understanding the power of choice. Now, I like to view the law of attraction in the form of parallel realities. Now the reason this is because parallel realities have a very firm understanding of how things work in the sense of being able to let go of the story that we tell ourselves, right? We think of everything very linearly. We think of everything that beginning, middle, end. And because of that, we then carry the beginning with us in the present moment right now. And the power of parallel realities is with the level of awareness, because this is something that quantum physics is beginning to show us. This is something we're learning more and more about. Right now it might seem kind of woo-woo, but I really believe that in the next 5, 10, 15 years, however long it takes, this will become something much more solid, much more acceptable, and really the new way of understanding some of these processes. Now let me kind of explain my, 2-minute way of understanding this. Basically, the idea is that every possible parallel reality we can imagine already exists. Think of it like a film reel, and think of it like the film that is on the reel itself. You can stretch that out, and you can see each individual frame. Each individual frame is a separate parallel reality. What we think of as movement is actually us shifting through different parallel realities so quickly and with so much continuity that we think it's all one thing, when in reality we are shifting through billions of parallel realities per second. And the way that I think about it is that seems kind of weird, right? Billions per second. What does that mean? Well, think about it. If your cat is right over there and instead of moving that way it moved a different way and I remain the same, and the illusion of the same like this, each individual movement is a separate parallel reality. Now imagine there's billions of variables all around us. There's people next door, there's people, there's maybe a dog outside, there's people everywhere. If they move just a fraction of an inch, that's a completely separate parallel reality. So the idea is that everything around us is moving, therefore there are billions of different parallel realities. Now this is the best part. We can create and shift to the parallel reality we want by knowing first off that it already exists. Every possible variation of what we can imagine already exists at some level. It's just a matter of frequency and vibrating at the same level of it. Now vibrating, I know it sounds like a woo-woo type term, but that's honestly what quantum physics is showing, is that everything is vibration. So from knowing this, what this means is that as we are able to resonate with the perfect version of ourselves, as we imagine the best possible version of ourselves and what we would be doing, we start to connect to that parallel reality. We start to see our habits. We start to take on all of those different ways of being, and as we do that, that's where everything begins to change, because we literally start to become a new version of ourselves. As we start to resonate with that reality, eventually the outer circumstances will shift to look like that. Now this is where choice comes in. Every choice that you make in the present moment right now is shifting you to different parallel realities. You can choose to take action, and that's a very powerful thing that will literally open up opportunities for you to create what you want. Every time you choose something that doesn't serve you, maybe an old thought pattern, maybe an old way of being, that also will have its own track, its own momentum. So consciously choose from the level of awareness of the observer effect, which means you are seeing where you are and where you want to be. Where are you right now? What are your patterns right now? Do you wake up every day and maybe eat junk food? Do you eat up every day, maybe watch 3 hours of television? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this. I'm just saying it's not about good or bad. It's about, is it efficient? Is it adding value to you? Is it allowing you to be the best version of yourself? And I promise you, the more you buy into yourself, the more you start to see that you love doing these type of things. You love feeling vitalized. You love eating healthy food because it makes you feel energized. You love all of these different aspects because it's who you prefer to be. And I think that choice is one of the most powerful ways to move through it, and it's something that can really profoundly change your life. Now, of course, the other side of this is that our subconscious mind is creating our life experience, that our subconscious runs most of what we experience. Now, what I've done is created a free MP3 guided meditation that you can listen to right before you go to bed that can allow you to reprogram your subconscious mind. Now, understand that our personal reality is created by how we think, how we feel, and how we act, because that is our personality. Our personality creates our personal reality. This is something I learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Now, the idea behind this is that the most powerful way we can change all of these things is by influencing our subconscious mind, and that's why I created a powerful meditation that uses NLP to be able to really see ourselves from a new point of view and to disassociate from the old self-image. So I'm going to go ahead and link that below. You can download that and understand that even more so than all of these things I'm talking about, understand that the most powerful things you can do is first off realize that having a neutral point of view allows you to change your perspective. That once you change your perspective, you're also able to let go of the resistance. As you let go of the resistance and you create from a much more neutral point of view, you'll find that things happen in an amazing way. And finally, know that everything you do is a choice. See everything you do as a choice. And as you do that, I promise you, your life will change. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already. Also, hit that little notification gear. The way YouTube does it now is that in order for you to see my videos, you actually have to hit that notification button for you to see those every single day. So feel free to do that as well. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next vid. Peace, much love, namaste.